That's Matthew Rhys, who's terrific in this film, as is the whole cast here in this movie. But when you look at that scene, what do you remember? What do you think?
I just think about Matthew Rhys. I'd never met him before. I was a big fan of his, and that scene that we did together, we'd never met, and that was the first scene we had. We only had a couple of scenes together, and we're bonded for life from that scene. I saw him recently, and I just sort of hugged him, and that's the beautiful thing about art, or acting. You're able to explore things and go to places, and if you trust the other actor, something kind of special can happen. And that was an experience of that. I mean, I wasn't supposed to put that bag on. That wasn't in the script, and it just happened, and it was really, and it was hard for him to take it off. That was real, and he was really calling somebody to help him, and it just something kind of magical happened there, and I'll never forget that scene.
Was there that kind of improvisation that John Wells let you do on that?
Yeah,
set?
John Wells was incredible, and it wasn't much dialogue in that scene. I think it was like he comes into a restaurant drunk, and because it's about a guy who's sober, and it's the first time he's gone out, and he's suicidal, and John was wonderful, and all those other actors in there, and I think we only did it once. I'm pretty sure we only did it once. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, my memory is that. I'm pretty sure we did it once. Yeah.
It's about a guy, a chef who wants to be a Michelin 3-star chef, and he comes in, but he's got this checkered past. Adam Jones.
Yeah,
is that his name?
yeah.
And you're coming in again. It's a gray line here, not black and white character here.
Yes.
You watch him evolve through this.
Yeah.
But also,
and Sienna Miller's incredible in that.
Sienna Miller's great in it too.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you watch you cook
we got to really cook, which is great.
You really cooked this stuff.
One real quick thing about that American Sniper clip, which is just to give you an idea of Clint, that scene. So with David O. Russell, he was the first director that I'd worked with who was always not behind the monitor, but actually there, and I just loved it. Like the scene in the diner between me and Jen, David O. Russell was underneath the table. Which Carrie knows about because I was underneath the table for her scene at the Palm Court. I remember that scene. I know it's crazy to visualize, but if the camera just went like this, Clint was right there with his sunblock on and his hat. And he's just in there going, because I would ask him, I was like, Clint, can you be close? Because I don't know, he just fumes come off him because he's so, I just love being around him. And I'm like, just, let's just talk through it. Because there was nobody there. We were, when we were shooting our coverage. He's like, there he is. And he was like, he's like, look at that little fucker run. I was like, Clint, stop, I can't do the scene. I kept laughing. I'm like, Clint, I can't get through it. Look at him, there he is. Look at that little piece of shit. There he is, look at him. It was so crazy. Anyway, you had to keep it light on that movie, honestly.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
To do that, oh my God.
Just in general, because we had, part of the SEAL Team 3 was one of the members was on Chris's team, and we had real vets there, and we would shift from crying and laughing throughout a day on that movie, and Clint was the reason that we would laugh.
That movie's still very pertinent today, and actually, Burnt, it's before The Bear.
Yes, yeah.
We watched you. I mean, it's like a war zone in a kitchen.
Yeah,
there.
It was. Yeah, and we really got to. We shot all of. There was nobody. No else came in and cooked. We did everything, which was wonderful.
You had a consultant.
Oh, Marcus Waring had a kitchen underneath. They would make the food, but we would be really cooking. But they taught us everything. And Gordon Ramsay was incredible. Marco Pierre White. I got to study with all of them. It was wonderful. And Claire, a woman who ran Gordon Ramsay's restaurant on Hospital Road, who now has her own 3 Michelin star restaurant in London, who's incredible. I was with her too. And John is a huge culinary sort of obsessive person, and so he knew so much. It was really, that was a cool. And Daniel Bruhl loves to cook. He was in the movie, and the great Italian actor. He was a great cook. There's so many. Yeah, everybody. And Sienna Miller's an incredible cook also.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you eat all the food after?
We did. We ate all day long. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. Which is perfect for him because he looked. He's a little plump in the movie.
I always wonder, there's a new movie out actually opening today, in L.A. called Taste of Things. And
Oh, really?
It's like unbelievable.
Oh, I gotta see
Oh,
it.
yeah. You got to see this movie. It's
Oh, I'm gonna
Juliette
see it.
Binoche and Benoit Magimel, and all they do is eat and cook.
Wow.
And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, how can you make a movie like that and not eat all the props? But, okay, so we're going to move on to your first directorial work here, and there is a Clint Eastwood connection, so more impressions, I hope, because you do the best Clint Eastwood.
I can't talk about him without. I apologize.
I love it.
Yeah, I can't do it without.
So he originally was going to direct A
Yes.
Star Is Born
Yes.
with Beyonce, is that
That was
it?
the idea. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, look, they're going like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and he asked me to do it years before, in 2000, many years before. And I remember I went to his office and I just knew I wasn't ready for it. I didn't think I could play this guy who was in the script, beaten down, and I thought I would be acting it. I hadn't done American Sniper, obviously, or even Elephant Man. It wasn't until after those two experiences that I felt like I could do it. And actually, I was with Clint with American Sniper at the Chateau Marmont, and Annie Lennox was singing at the Grammys. I think it was on television, and it was so incredible. And I was watching it, sitting with Clint, like the veins in her neck, and it was like, there's nothing more powerful than somebody singing. There's just nothing. And I turned to Clint, and I was like, maybe we should do that now. And he's like, no. And and I was like, okay. And that night I had a dream about it. And I went to Warner Brothers the next morning and met with Greg Silverman, and I pitched him the first 10 minutes of this movie, and I asked him if I could maybe write and direct it. And then he said, yeah, and if you could do it for $20 million. And then that's when it all started.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was Beyonce still in your head for it?
Yeah, and I worked with her, and she was incredible. And we went down the road, and then it didn't work out. And then I thought about Adele for a while. Like, it was like, his career's not great. He goes abroad. It's like, meets this woman, but no. And then that never even like took off at all. And then I was with my mother at a cancer benefit, and all of a sudden the closing act was Lady Gaga coming out, and she sings La Vie en Rose in the cancer benefit, and it was like crystallized in that moment. And I thought, how did I ever think anybody else? And I was so lucky. I went to meet her the next day or the day after in Malibu at her house, and she came down the stairs. I'll never forget it. And right away I was like, oh, this is going to work. I just felt it. And she cooked me like spaghetti, and we're talking, and next thing you know, I was like, can we sing? And I don't sing at that point at all. And I was like, we sang at her piano, and it was just like, and that was it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
She gave everything to that movie. I mean, she was such a part of the writing process, everything. She is just a force of nature, man.
She's amazing. I don't think anybody who watched the Oscars that year will ever forget your performance together on the Academy Awards.
That was really special.
It was amazing.
Oh, man. And
You
I
just
did not
sort of
want to do
walked
it.
up, as
Yeah.
I remember, just walked up out of the audience.
And that was all out of fear, Pete. I said, because I thought, like, well, imagine, like, isn't better just sitting you're already in the room, just start singing. And for the first couple of notes, like, your back's to the audience. But I was like, if I was standing in the side, I would be so terrified. I already was so terrified. So that's actually how that whole shot started, out of my fear of, like, how am I going to pull this off? Because I had no desire to sing live on network television, but I knew that if I didn't sing, and like she was up there singing Shallow with somebody else, I was like, well, that guy obviously can't sing because he's not doing it. So it was like I had no choice, but it wound up being awesome. I mean, that was really like a life memory. That was really wonderful.
And you did, which doesn't always happen in movies, musicals in particular, did it all live, all the live
Yeah,
stuff.
we did all the
in
vocals
movie.
live. Yeah, it was crazy.
And so how long did it take you to become a singer?
Well, with a bandwidth like that, but yeah, a year. I worked with this incredible vocal coach, Roger Love, and I would go to his office like 3 or 4 times a week, and and then Lucas Nelson was incredible, and he basically would go down to my basement and sing and write songs and play with his band, and just immersed myself.
You know, that's such an iconic property, as they say in the business. A Star Is Born, going back to 1937. With Janet Gaynor, and then Judy Garland's in the 50s, and then Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson in the 70s, and then all the talk of constantly taking this basic story but making it your own. And you managed to do that. You managed to
Thank you.
turn it into a love story that was tragic.
With the help of Eric Roth, incredible writer, and another gentleman. Yeah, Yeah.
It became new again.
Sam Elliott was a huge part of that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, the
Sam
brother
Elliott's
character.
amazing. In fact, the clip we're going to show is with you and Sam Elliott. I'm just curious, before we show that clip, you have so much of your performances that I've noticed is in the voice. It's in, you adopt different voices and things. And here, you're sort of having to sound like your father.
Brother,
I mean. You have to sound like your brother. You sort of adopted that.
That's right.
There. And so did you study Sam?
Oh, that's all I studied. Yeah, I remember doing. I could like do his Sundance sort of interviews like verbatim. After all, there's certain things that I found online, and I would just go over and over and over and over and over until I felt like I could do his voice.
Did you do that a lot, like Chris Kyle? Did you do that with him?
Same thing. I started to work with Tim Monick, an incredible dialect coach. Leonardo DiCaprio had turned me on to him. He had been working with him for years, and and Brad had worked with him for many years. I think in Glorious Bastards, and right, yeah, and he's incredible. And we started working on American Sniper was the first, and then Stars Born and Nightmare Alley and Maestro. Yeah.
So what did Sam Elliott think of that when you...
I mean, that's how I pitched Sam Elliott the movie. I asked him over. It was so crazy. You think about when you love something so much, you don't realize like the stuff like pitching Beyonce, A Star Is Born. I remember I was so nervous. I had like this weird cough as I was pitching it to her. I was like, so then the guy, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? And Sam Elliott came over, and I was talking to him about like, I would love to maybe see you in a role where you're just filled with resentment and like, you know, because I haven't seen you play a role like that. Like you're usually the wise one, but this guy's just filled with bitterness because his brother and his brother like took his voice and play. And then I played him a tape of me doing him at Sundance doing the interview, and I was like, what do you think? Creepy? He's like, I can't do his voice at all now, but he was like, you know, that was a little creepy. But we really got along, and I mean, I was screwed if he said no. So he said yes, and then
he got an Academy Award nomination. The first one in his career, which was so well deserved.
Sure was.
So that movie, originally in the 70s, was produced, among other people, by John Peters.
Yes.
And John Peters had contractual everything on that.
Yeah.
You couldn't make the movie unless he said yes. So he was going to pull this thing.
The truth is, the only reason the movie got made is because I went to him and asked him, and he deferred his $1 million grandfathered-in producer fee, and that's the only reason why we were able to make the movie.
Wow. Well, we cleverly paired this with a clip from Licorice Pizza in which you play John Peters.
That's crazy. Paul Thomas Anderson, who was my hero, called me years later and said, hey, I'd love you to play John Peters. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
So life is funny, you know.
There is.
And you're brilliant as John Peters. You got a SAG nomination for Best Supporting Actor for like 8 minutes on screen, which is unforgettable 8 minutes. So we're going to see that. I just have to ask you about that. I'm the world's biggest Paul Thomas Anderson fan, and this is my favorite movie that he's ever done. But let's take a look at A Star Is Born and then Licorice Pizza.